Not always have women had as nice of lives as males. Any influence they may have had was typically through their husbands. But many women managed to be just as insane as the ruler, whether they reigned as a consort or in their own right. There have been many women in history who, on their own terms, were absolutely weird. Some of these queens with very weird behaviors are Queen Mary. According to The Guardian, Queen Mary, the grandmother of Queen Elizabeth was a kleptomaniac. She would enter people's homes and outright take things. She would stop by your house and look for something she loved, according to Royal Babylon, which describes her method. She would look at whatever she wanted to look at for a long time, without talking like a normal person who had come to visit. This was the initial cautionary notice. She would sigh and yell something like, "I am stroking it with my eyes," if you still didn't get the idea. Given that the queen was the one telling you this, you were probably going to cave and give her whatever it was as a gift. What if, though, it was a precious family heirloom or something you simply couldn't bear to lose? She would simply have to accept it covertly without your knowledge. When people became aware of what she was doing, they started to keep everything she could find attractive hidden before she arrived. She responded by unexpectedly arriving. It was also difficult for English antique sellers. It was common for Queen Mary to visit, grab whatever she wanted, and then simply forget to pay for it. Her theft eventually became so terrible that her aides had to be on high alert. If they later discovered that she had managed to take something, they would return it with a note explaining the misunderstanding. Empress Elizabeth. Elizabeth, the Empress of Russia, who was Catherine the Great's aunt-in-law, controlled the country on her own. Anyone with absolute authority has the ability to do anything she pleases, and Elizabeth wanted her court to engage in cross-dressing. The issue was that Elizabeth thought she had amazing legs, but she was unable to show them off because of the large hoop skirts that were popular at the time. Contrarily, the breeches and tights worn by men greatly showed off their physique. She would organize massive gatherings where everyone was forced to cross-dress, because she was in command and didn't want to be the only one who looked different in men's clothes. St. Petersburg in the Russian court, 1703 to 1761, claimed that the youthful Catherine relished these gatherings. Aside from the Empress, she might have been the only person. Not all women looked good in the male fashion, particularly the older women who were described as having short, chubby legs. However, the guys had it the worst. They were used to wearing clothes that was rather form-fitting, so switching to large hoop skirts meant they had no idea how to navigate their enormous size while walking, let alone dancing. They were also had to wear what amounted to enormous wigs, hairstyles. Accidents were sure to occur with such a radical alteration, as when Catherine was knocked over while dancing and tripped over a man's hoop skirt. Amazingly, after Elizabeth's passing, these balls stopped. Queen Nzinga. Queen Nzinga of modern-day Angola was very busy. After her brother passed away and she assumed control, she spent the most of her time fighting the Portuguese. This was successful because she repelled the Portuguese for 40 years. She also wanted to get busy at this moment. She assembled a harem of some of the sexiest men for that reason. Strangely, she made them dress as women, but perhaps that made sense given that she was flaunting her masculine appearance. She didn't have enough time, though, to enter her harem every night and choose her partner for the night. According to Harvard's library collection, she came up with a swift and sensible solution to issue as a result. Every night, Nzinga would simply stage a duel between two men, with the winner going to bed. She would also have the winner put to death the next day. Unmet needs in the bedroom. She finally came to the conclusion that she wasn't cut out for this at 75 and dispersed her harem. But that doesn't mean she abandoned everyone. She married one of her youngest women, according to From Eve to Dawn, A History of Women in the World, making her a severe cougar. Queen Victoria. The British monarch Victoria had a death-obsessed personality. Thankfully for her, many significant individuals in her life passed away while she was in control, including her mother, daughter, and most notably her husband. When he passed away, she reportedly ordered the longest mourning in modern times, according to Deseret News. This was in the days when losing a random uncle meant you had to wear black for at least a year. She would spend the rest of her life in widow's weeds, never truly recovering from her melancholy. According to Beardy History, she also often used cocaine and opium, which is more rock and roll news. But at the time, such were permissible. Today's use of illegal drugs cannot be compared to what was essentially prescription medication. Fortunately, Queen Victoria experimented with some contentious material as well, including chloroform. The Queen, contrary to popular belief, enjoyed the horizontal tango a lot. This meant that while her husband was alive, she was essentially always pregnant. She received chloroform for the birth of her 7th child, and she loved it so much that she asked for it during the deliveries of her subsequent 2 children. Because chloroform was such a divisive substance at the time, the public was astonished to learn that the queen had consumed some happy juice. The rumors were accurate, despite the Lancet, a renowned medical magazine, insisting they couldn't be. Catherine the Great. Catherine the Great was one of the most well-known women to ever lead an entire country. She ruled Russia with an iron grip, and she was effective in doing so. Despite having a wild libido, the most popular story about her is based on an urban legend. She wasn't killed by a horse who did her dirty. She never actually approached a horse while wearing her lady bits, but she did like to get down and dirty with guys. She wasn't as effective as some kings, though. Before moving on to a new conquest, she would spend some time with a man she liked. But you don't have time to waste on men who don't measure up when you're busy managing one of the biggest nations in the world. Catherine didn't take any chances because of this. The emperor allegedly had Countess Bruce, a friend, test out anyone she was contemplating dating, according to the poet and the vampire. This made sense in a strange way. Given her busy schedule, Catherine needed assurance that any man she invited to her bed would be worthwhile. In order to serve as her official bonk tester, Countess Bruce stepped in. According to the Empress of Art, she sometimes took her job too seriously and took it extremely seriously. She was at least once caught dating a tryout after he had already been given to Catherine. Marie Antoinette. Among all queens, Marie Antoinette is arguably the most well-known. She had a lavish existence while married to Louis XVI, at least up until they hacked off her head. She was given everything she needed in life. She had literally dozens of people chasing behind her, giving her gifts anytime she asked. She reportedly found this to be intolerable and searched for a way out. Unfortunately, it appeared from the approach she took that she was making fun of regular French people. On the grounds of Versailles, she had her own miniature palace constructed for her, but Château de Versailles felt this was insufficient. She also desired a location where she could truly disconnect and live like she imagined the lives of the poor. So she created a makeshift village for herself. This, according to Modern Nation, also contained a lake, a watermill, a functioning dairy, a windmill that doesn't mill anything, a barn, and several other peasant-style structures. Marie Antoinette didn't say this half-heartedly. She anticipated that her guests would fully embrace the notion of being a struggling farmer or whatever. Women were instructed to replace their elaborate ball gowns with something basic and usual. Even her children came along to learn about farming. Although she tried, her friendship with the peasantry was insufficient to prevent her from losing her mind. Valeria Messalina. The deeds of Valeria Messalina were legendary in the sense that we are unsure of their veracity. But the fact that numerous historians have narrated the same tale is about the best historical proof there is. Tacitus, Suetonius, Pliny the Elder, and many others, according to history's naughty bits, all relate the same stories about Valeria Messalina. You decide whether or not you believe them to be true. Long after she didn't have to, the Empress continued to work. She was the owner of a seedy establishment where women bartered their favors for money and earned a handsome profit. She allegedly forced upper-class women to take part in the nighttime activities, according to Roman emperors. According to rumors, Valeria Messalina was a pro in the bedroom. She allegedly established objectives for her girls and took part in the fun herself. She allegedly won competitions to see who could bed the most men in a single night, occasionally tallying 25 males, which is quite insane. It might just be a tale of how she manipulated her husband, the Emperor Claudius, using her sexuality. Joanna the Mad of Castile. Joanna married a gorgeous guy. Even if he was a jerk about it, Philip, popularly known as Philip the Handsome, understood how to make his wife happy. Mad monarchs claimed that he would lock his temperamental wife in her bedroom for days if they got into a fight. She would simply roam around her room banging on the walls when she wasn't getting down. Since she was allegedly argumentative in general, this happened a lot. Philip was a womanizer. Since there are alternatives, it is uncommon for a king to be entirely devoted to his queen, but Philip had a particularly wandering gaze. But once he was dead, he was Joanna's alone, and she had a plan to make the most disgusting use of that. According to Time, she wasn't ready to give up having her husband's dead body all to herself without a fight. She postponed allowing her spouse to be buried since she knew he now belonged to her alone. She had his casket opened even after he had been properly laid to rest so she could kiss his feet and make sure his body hadn't been taken. She mandated that ladies be kept away from him even after he had passed away, perhaps because she thought he was too attractive and didn't want other women to fall in love with him. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to this channel. Remember to hit the bell button for easy notifications.